This is Aaron Levine, LG Insurance, with another episode of the And Insurance Podcast. Today, we're working in a remote session from coast to coast. We're in coastal New Jersey, right? I'm about 3 blocks from the ocean front right now. And I'm with John Johnson, who's with Mineral, ThinkHR, who's coming to us from Oregon. So we really are working across the country today. How far are you from the from the coast?
About an hour away or so from the coast.
Pretty close if we looked at a giant map of the United States. Yeah. So we're hitting it all. You have a good backdrop today, so it's a beautiful day where you are. It's a beautiful day here. I just want to thank you for taking the time to chat with me today about who you are, what you do, and how we can help continuing to benefit our insureds that we work with. So give me a little bit of background about yourself. How long have you been with Mineral? And then we'll go from there.
Sure. So I've been in the ethics and compliance industry for about 11 years or so now, and spent some time as an insurance broker, spent some more time kind of the legal and training sides of things. And so I've been with Mineral for about 2 years now, and I run a team of account managers who ensure that people have success with the platform and that they're finding what they need. So it's been fun to see the two businesses come together. I mean, both businesses have about 15 years or so of experience with ThinkHR and Mammoth, and then we came together to form Mineral over the last several years.
So what is Mammoth? What was Mammoth?
So yeah, very similar platform to ThinkHR. It had a bit more of a focus towards HR consultants, but still a HR library, experts to get answers through a hotline, a handbook guidance, similar types of things. And so I'd say their focuses were a bit different.
Okay. Yeah. So I signed up with ThinkHR when it was still ThinkHR prior to the Mineral acquisition, or however that all worked out. So as an insurance agent, we provide the platform to a lot of our insureds. We use the platform for ourselves in-house. And as I talk to people around the industry, we know a lot of insurance brokers that are using the platform to benefit their insureds, right? We want our people to be safe, keeps our ratios lower, keeps our profitability higher. And at the end of the day, will help keep costs down when it comes to that total cost of risk. So super important to help our insureds keep their total costs down, and keep everything in check, and try to differentiate ourselves from the marketplace instead of just being a bottom quote, see you later, bye type of company, which we're seeing so much of lately. These quote unquote insurtechs and these online purchase platforms for insurance, really, they make our job difficult. And it makes it even more important for us to have to stand out a little bit. So go into a little bit about the ThinkHR platform and how brokers like myself are using it to benefit their insurance base.
Sure. And then there's a big difference between picking something like off the shelf and from an insurance product, or anything that's from like an online shopping experience. It's not exactly the same when you're picking something that's complicated for your business. And so you provide a personalized approach, understanding a business's safety needs, understanding what they need to address their risk. And we're doing the same thing from an HR standpoint. And so providing a personalized guidance to all the different challenges that they would see in the HR world. And so that's kind of the key of it, is that we have the locations that you operate within, the number of employees in those locations. And so we can tailor all the guidance that we have in the platform. And when you pick up and call the hotline, based off of those pieces. And so it's, not generic as a result.
Right. And the technology to drive it, right? We want the personalized approach with the technology to help drive it behind the scenes. I think it is important. You drop the hotline. We're going to save that one for a little bit later, because that's certainly a fan favorite, especially for my client base. Right. Keep going on the platform.
Sure. So often when people first get in there, they see that we run trainings every Tuesday to see how to use the platform if it's your first time. They go in to see that there's an HR assessment. And so if you have no idea what might be the gaps in your platform, you can just take a quick assessment, and it'll let you know some things that you might address first. And then typically the first thing that they might notice is that the handbook is out of date and needs to be updated. And so It's funny that we see things that are like 10 years old. We see things that are on paper, typed with a typewriter. There's all sorts of stuff that people pull off the shelf. And so, having a tool that one, you can, throw in everything into the platform and it will create the handbook for you based off of the, all the details you throw in there, but it keeps it up to date and notifies you, in line when something needs to be updated, in each state. And so we're seeing a lot more people move to new states. And so people have employees all over the country now more regularly with remote work.
That multi-state thing is important. Somebody asked me a question the other day and, I said, well, we have a way to figure that out with your New Jersey based employee who's moving to Montana because they don't need to be in the office anymore. And that's where they'd rather be. Now we've got to worry about, well, what do the labor laws in Montana look like? And how does it affect me with respect to the work that I'm performing? So that's hugely valuable, that you guys are providing that right now.
Right. And often there's, you have no connection whatsoever. You've never been to Montana and all of a sudden you have to know all of the ins and outs of their legal landscape and employment. And so it really helps to have everything in one place to manage all of that. So then especially having kind of a to-do list of things, there's something called mineral intelligence that we've added into the platform that it notices what you're doing and suggests a next step. And so when you start researching things in Montana, it says, well, do you have a new employee in Montana? Is it something that you might be able to update in your employee handbook? And then it kind of guides you to the next step. And so I forget the name of that guy, but it's kind of we've noticed that you're doing this, would you like to go this next step?
You mean Google, Facebook, Apple, and everybody else that's listening to us all the time?
So yeah, I guess it's predictive. it's right in those kinds of things.
If I type Montana into my browser, it's either going to want me to go skiing or I'm hiring a new employee, right? That's what's going to show up.
Right. Well, we could, spend the rest of the time talking about skiing. But it's getting a lot of answers to like the next question that you're going to have, I think is some of the keys that keep people coming back into the platform, because that's ultimately what every HR person is worried about. Is like, what am I forgetting? Like, what's the next thing that I should be doing sometimes? And so having some guidance towards that, either in the platform, or picking up the phone and calling us is a good way to get information. So, and the other pieces are in training. Whether you're looking for, ways to improve your employee retention strategy is a huge risk that people have, especially now that people are making more intentional work choices. I would say they're evaluating what they want and evaluating what type of place they want to work, and often it's a place that invests in them and helps them advance their career in some way. And so that's often some type of training, and whether it's within their personal skills or their business skills, or there's lots of safety training that's built in. And so that's a huge area of expertise that we're going to providing to the platform as well.
I just had that conversation this morning. I was in a budget meeting for a large nonprofit that I'm on the board of, and I was talking about the current labor pool, the next generation, the next iteration over the next couple of years of the labor force coming in, who's going to be making their own rules and dictating a little bit more to the employers of how things are going to go. And so a lot of it is, one is tech driven, two is how we're going to invest in their futures and the the quote unquote work-life balance as it may seem, that there's a major shift in the workforce today. And so we get questions from our clients mostly around EPLI, right? The question always comes about employment practices, liability insurance, and so it's, well, if you want to be in compliance, you want to get a better rate, where's your handbook? And then there's a blank stare and a silence for about 3 minutes, for who's going to break that silence first. And usually there's an issue and we need to try and resolve it. And that's when we come back to Mineral to help with that. So that's always our segue in. And that's, how do we invest in our clientele and our insureds is the same way that they need to invest in their workforce by, using this technology and helping them do better for their employees. And also the employers need to protect themselves from their employees at the same time.
Sure. Yeah. It's a shift in people knowing exactly kind of the environment they want to work in. They're vocal about it. They often, like, we conduct stay interviews here at Mineral to help understand what people's expectations are. And so it's a huge way that we'd help to avoid or just like improve retention in general, and then guide maybe our next policies to keep people engaged with the mission of what we're doing, and then, just all of our day-to-day activities. So, but all of those things being part of policy or part of an ongoing iterative process is really important to manage risk over time. And so there's a kind of a cultural piece and element to that, and then there's the risk and safety, long-term aspect of it.
No, that's a good way to look at it. I'm gonna have to look into doing those stay interviews over here myself. I'm like,
yeah, it's interesting thing.
Think a little bit, but I'm like, who's gonna quit on me after we do that?
Well, and it's interesting questions to ask. They're nerve-wracking sometimes. The president of our company just did a couple presentations on like how to turn the Great Resignation trend that we're seeing into more of a re-engagement opportunity. And so there's lots of those kinds of thought leadership stuff that we're doing to help people manage some of those bigger trends that we see. And then all those things are sort of are articles that are baked into the platform as well.
Awesome. So we talked about the Living Handbook, which is, I think, a huge value, especially for my client base. You also have the workplace safety piece of it, the learn piece of it. Talk about that a little bit.
So that is a piece that we've had for a long time now, and some overall trainings when it comes to like OSHA logs, and I would say they're kind of foundational safety trainings. And we've just added a huge chunk to it that is a wider employee health and safety section. And we have some experts on our team, more safety experts that have experience managing some, more treacherous workplaces, whether they be like construction type things or just things around the office that seem more treacherous than they did before. It's I know I've stood on a few chairs in some offices and learned very quickly that is not what I need to do at all. So we
have to worry about the home office workplace safety too now, right? Like workers' comp claims that are coming in. I haven't experienced any yet, but from accidents, in your home office. So there's weird things going on, and we need somebody behind the scenes that's better at it than I am.
Sure. I mean, around every corner there's a little bit of liability somewhere, but so understanding what those risks are, and then how to create policies around them from a safety standpoint are all built into the platform. There's a lot of questions around home safety equipment, what you need to provide from a business standpoint. And then it also, dives into more trainings that, or I guess manuals that kind of walk people through how to set those things up. And so, so there's, I guess, lots of different ways to address that risk. And so making sure that you have good ways of tracking, close calls and things like that, and ways that you're addressing risk along the way is also a good story to tell if a misstep should occur. There's lots to prove that you're doing all the right things to avoid that situation as it comes up to it. So there's going to be more, added to it over time, but that's something that's kind of fresh in the last month here or so.
Awesome. So you guys keep adding, services and opportunities. I think we were talking about some benefits guidance before we hit the recording as well, right? You're getting into not doing the work for brokers to get set up for medical benefits to help employers, but just adding your more experts onto your team to better help employers and agents and customers alike. So talk a little bit about that.
Right. We noticed that we're getting a lot of different questions around benefits, and we've always guided those questions, but we wanted to have more expertise and pedigree in that. And so we looked to find people with 15 years experience in benefits, and then understanding more about wrap documents, understanding more about how to apply certain plans and strategies to that conversation that you have with individuals. And so we don't necessarily make wider grand strategy plans with people. We rely on you to do those types of things and create more long-term risk strategies. But you might have a question that comes in from an employee that is worded a bit differently, or you're not really sure how to respond to it effectively. And so a lot of times, whether you're calling the hotline or sending us a question, it's just like, how do I explain this in a way that it makes it simple to understand, that makes it easy to apply? We can kind of, run through that conversation, go through the details, and make sure you get the key points to it. And they're confident going into that conversation with employees. And that's kind of the key piece is you can understand, the details about or the summary of benefits, but at the same time, it's having confidence in that conversation that makes it all the more, interesting for people to get into. And then they, retain it and they can apply it.
Right. I mean, confidence in the conversation is important, right? So do you find that a lot of companies that are using, the platform are in the small to mid-size range, in the large range? Where do you see a lot of the businesses, that are participating and active on the platforms?
So depending on their kind of growth strategy, it's around 50 employees, 50 to 100 is a key place where they engage heavily with the platform. There's some folks that they have, 10, 15 employees that are growing quite rapidly, and they can plan for that growth effectively. And because it's usually something that gets kind of lost in the dust a bit, is you're focusing on your craft, on the thing that you love to do more than anything, and all of the pieces to make sure there's a strong foundation built for the business is kind of a secondary thing sometimes. And so making sure that those tools are easy and they're quick to use, and so you can at least have something that you can build off of is critical on those kind of high growth stages. And so lots of change is always like, okay, you need mineral as quickly as possible. And if there's more change, that's great. Let's make sure you can sustain that over time, and that it's that's repeatable and it's something you can be confident in.
Right. We're finding a lot that, business owners are overworked, understaffed right now. People are, on the struggle bus a little bit. As we go into prospect meetings and meet with business owners, as a business owner, we're mostly in a revenue generating mode, right? We started a business to make money, especially when you're in the small to mid-sized business and you are the, sole member, right? You're in the business to make money. Expenses, at some point you start looking at expenses and you want to reduce your expenses and reduce your overall risk. But for a long time, it's how do we generate money? And we're finding more and more that these business owners are back full time into revenue generating activities and controlling what they can control, because you can't control fuel costs. I mean, I just paid a $20 fuel surcharge, for a delivery coming to my house. And I said, okay, thank you. I mean, I guess, right? Like, do I want to pay it? But do I understand it when gas is $6? I totally do. And that has an effect on all of us. But when we're full on in revenue generating activities, it makes it difficult, one, for us to effectively sell or consult with people so that they buy their insurance from us. And then we need more tools to help them automate and get things done a little bit faster. So it's a real tricky environment out there. And finding ways to save people time is more important right now than saving them money, if that sounds funny. We're seeing a lot of that on our end.
Right. And I mean, time is the scarcest thing we have. Right. And I'd say, especially, in that size of a company range, often it's not, you don't have dedicated HR teams. These are people that wear multiple hats for the most part. Right. And so time is critical. And I think we found that maybe about 20 hours or so a week is spent researching employment law and HR related things. And so we can cut that down to, like 4 hours or so, and depending on how many issues you have in one particular week. But it's a lot of time spent, piecing through a variety of different resources that you can find online, calling friends. There's people, do find lots of different resources, but having a dependable place that, that, there's always people that have the experience or have had the experience before, it cuts that time, significantly.
And this brings us to the next topic, right? Which is one of the coolest features that you offer, that Mineral has available to the clients on the platform, which we use as part of our sales process. Is there is an 800 number there is a resource available to employers to speak to an expert or to look online through the resource documents to find out who else has asked that same question and be able to get your questions answered, by a real professional very quickly, so that you can then react and make the appropriate decisions for your business without getting yourself into trouble, which is why people are buying those EPLI policies in droves. And for a while, we couldn't sell them during the pandemic. But they're still a very popular product, but harder to get, more expensive, higher deductibles, so we need to make sure that we're in line. And so using that hotline, we've had a lot of success with our clients being able to use it. So go into the hotline details.
Sure. So there's, we have, what is it now? About 80 or so experts on our team. They have an average about 18 years experience and in a variety of different industries, sizes of companies. And so something they did early on with us, early on, I guess, with all of the people who work at Mineral, is that we sit in on some of these calls just to figure out what that experience is like. And I liked this service as when I was a broker. I liked it just as a general thing in the marketplace. But when I got to experience what it is that we provide in a live format, getting a call from the hotline, going through what that situation is, and then getting a response to it right there in the phone, it really connected me in with exactly the value of what we're doing. And so what's neat about it too is that, of course, you have that conversation, you can ask questions and really dive into what that situation is, and then be sure that you're confident in being able to answer it going forward. But then you get a detailed email afterwards about the kind of the summary of the conversation, what are some additional resources you might look into, and what are maybe like the templates and things you can use to apply whatever you're looking at. So it's a really great full scope of an answer to what you're looking at. And the same thing, if you were just to type it to us and send it to us, you get an answer back in a business day. But like you said, being able to pick up the phone, a lot of those situations happen on the fly. Someone comes into your office, tells you about a situation, you're like, I got to talk to someone about this kind of right now.
Right.
So having that resource there is really critical for folks.
Yeah, so it's tremendously beneficial for that. And, the fact that you have, 80 plus experts on hand to be able to go through the situations, and, and obviously some of them are state-based, and many of them are sensitive, in nature, sensitive in time. So being able to use that, the hotline through the platform is a mega benefit in my book when it comes to, pitching the capabilities, and the fact that in most cases I'm covering the costs for my insureds, right? I think that's important. Mm-hmm. I think it brings a little bit of a value add to the table, that we're going to reduce their total cost of risk, and we're going to reduce some of their time that they need, right? We can all sell a product. We all have access to very similar products to sell. It's how do we sell the right product? How do we get somebody to purchase the right product? And what do we do to support it, throughout the remainder of the year? Bodes well for, how we try to operate and the clients that we're trying to work with.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's the partnership of our organizations. I mean, LG has been a great partner for a long time. And a lot of it is knowing that we have an expertise in certain areas, and then combining it together and making sure that we can provide a kind of a full scope of addressing the risk that people come into. And so there's certainly enough different things to get deep on with the expertise. And so an HR is an entirely different world, and it's constantly changing. And so it's like I said, it's provided me with 11 years of entertainment and work to get into. And so it's something that I enjoy solving the problem, and so do the rest of the people here.
Right. So what's new? What's next for Mineral? What's new for Mineral besides you have the benefits, coaching and guidance, but what's on the horizon for Mineral?
So I would say, more employee health and safety guidance kind of going into the platform and looking at providing more capability of tracking those things. There is anonymous reporting tools to support a lot of the training for workplace harassment prevention. is kind of critical to business in New Jersey and New York and around the country. So having a place to report things and ask questions about some of those situations is really helpful. And having an anonymous way to do that is always beneficial.
That's great.
So and then looking at ways that we can drive more into that mineral intelligence piece, and what other information can we use to create to-do lists for people, because that's essentially what the platform is able to do. Is there's lots of guidance and information out there, but how do you make it succinct? Like, how do you get back to that time piece? Like, just give me a list of things to do, and I can roll through them. And I don't know about you, but I love making lists and then just crushing through it and seeing check marks on it. It's like it brings me joy. And so having a bit of that,
I use my calendar. It's got to be put on my calendar, or it doesn't exist.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. It's time. It drives away from me. Having it listed out so you know exactly what you need to do, knowing that you've done that is the confidence that the platform can provide, and what we really like doing.
Right. No, that's great. You also brought up the harassment prevention training, which is required in New York, which we've used for some of our New York clients, is a tremendous benefit. Do you see more states adopting a requirement for harassment prevention training?
Slowly but surely, I see things on the ballot. There's not, ones that I always have to preface people, like, I am not an HR expert. I really like talking about it. That's something that our team can answer more about, things that are coming down the line, but we're monitoring, the last time I checked, there was almost 1,000 or so different levels of kind of legal process that we're watching to see when things pass, and so that we are prepared when they do pass. It gets added into the platform quickly, and then we tell people how to prepare for it. So we're always looking to see what's coming down the line. But yeah, I think slowly but surely more and more states are doing it. It'll be a while before we see anything federally, I'm sure.
Right. Listen, lots of great information. I appreciate you taking the time to chat with me so we can kind of get this information out there so we can share with our clients. I even think this video recording is going to be good for me to send to my prospects, whether they take the 27 minutes to watch it or not. Sure. That's up to them. But, really seeing and understanding the benefits that Mineral provides to our insureds and what we're trying to get out to our prospects, I think is super important. And then every other broker and payroll company and whomever else is a partner with Mineral is really just trying to do the best for the employee base in general, and give ourselves more time back and keep things safe and moving forward in a good direction. So, John, I appreciate the time today, and I look forward to continuing to working with you and with Mineral.
Likewise. Yeah, always good talking with you, Aaron.
Thanks so much.
All right. Bye-bye.